Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development, where we share original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We hope you join us often for practitioner-oriented content around all things related to leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations Podcast? Please subscribe, leave a review, comment, share, and consider supporting the podcast on Patreon, even at the producer and sponsorship levels. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Neal Sarin about supporting your people's mental health through music therapy. Neal Sarin, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
John, thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to be with you today. I'm super excited to have what I think will be a unique and interesting conversation for listeners. We're going to be talking about supporting our people in our organizations and our teams and their mental health through music therapy. We've talked about a whole bunch of different things on this podcast, but I'm not sure we've ever talked about music therapy, especially as it relates to mental health issues and challenges and employee burnout and the types of things that we face day to day in the workplace. So I think this will be a fascinating conversation. As we get started, I wanted to share Neal's bio with everybody. Neal Sarin is an entrepreneur, music executive, record producer, and screenwriter. He is currently the founder and CEO of Sona, an AI-based music therapy app designed to help anxiety. Sona uses AI to recommend restorative music that's scientifically tested to improve symptoms. Previously, he served as the head of A&R at Sarin, South Asia's leading music streaming service. He co-founded the company's in-house record label and led creative strategy towards artist-friendly deals while producing cross-continental records with artists like Nas and Marshmello. After launching several global hits and developing the careers of independent South Asian artists, Sarin was honored as India's most innovative company by Fast Company in 2019. What a tremendous background, Neal. It's great to have you. Again, probably one of the more unique backgrounds of people I've interviewed on this podcast before. So I'm super excited for the conversation. Anything else you would like to share with listeners by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
I think you summed it up pretty nicely there.
Okay. So again, unique background, entrepreneur, music executive, time in the music business. Tell us a little bit about how you got into that area. What drove you to, in terms of your career to move into that space, and then how you made the kind of the extension, the jump into reparative, restorative types of music that can be used to relieve symptoms and help with mental health challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever since I was 16, I wanted to get into artist development. I had my first A&R internship at Polydor Records at Universal Music Group. And after that experience, I just fell in love with the idea of artist development and doing it as a career. In terms of restorative music, I'm also a meditator. So I started meditating back in 2010, learning transcendental meditation, and received a lot of benefits from it, reduced anxiety, improved focus. But on that journey, I realized that it takes a lot of time, dedication, practice, and even monetary investment to achieve meaningful benefits. So the music producer and composer in me thought, how can we create music that could help people achieve similar benefits to traditional meditation, but just by listening to music? So that really prompted the journey of creating a music composition process that could actually help people achieve these benefits, that's backed by neuroscience.
And tell us a little bit more about the neuroscience component. And again, your app uses AI-based music therapy. I'm not really even sure how that works. Can you explain that for us a little bit in the neuroscience behind that?
Our music is composed in-house with Grammy-winning producers, engineers. And basically what we've done is we've developed a music composition process, right? That's a series of composing and sound mixing techniques that when you bring them together, they have this anti-anxiety effect on the listener. So the music's actually composed by humans. You know, a lot of people think, oh, is it machines? Is it robots? Who's making the music? It's actually human-based compositions. And with that, we've on the AI side, we use AI to recommend music based on the listener's inputs, time of day, listening behavior over time. So that's kind of where the AI recommendation engine comes in. And in terms of the neuroscience, we've conducted a few studies, one with Nielsen, one with UC Berkeley. And essentially what we found is that our music in the span of 10 minutes significantly increased alpha brainwave activity. Are you familiar with brainwave states and kind of what they mean?
Not really. If you can explain that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, as we're having a conversation right now, John, our brainwaves are in beta. So we're in a focused, alert state. If we were stressed or agitated, we'd be in high beta, right? So a more anxious state and a faster frequency. And if you're in a relaxed and calm state, it's known as an alpha state, so a slower frequency. So what we found, that's kind of just the basic overview. It gets deeper than that. But what we found is that our music significantly increased alpha, and it also increased working memory. So we saw more theta. And we also conducted a second study with UC Berkeley recently, where we actually tested our music with mice and monitored their corticosterone levels, which is the stress hormone equivalent in mice. And we compared our music against 60 minutes of Sona, 60 minutes of Bob Marley Exodus reggae, and 60 minutes of white noise. And essentially what we found is that our music was significantly more effective in reducing corticosterone than the white noise and the Bob Marley type of music. And so it's really interesting findings, and we're just building a narrative around our music's efficacy. And we're currently on track now to achieving FDA approval. So we're conducting all this research as fuel and ammunition to achieve that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that explanation. Again, this isn't my area, so I appreciate just kind of walking me and my listeners through that. And it's super fascinating. And I'm one that always listens to music while I work. And so I'm curious, is this the kind of thing where you use it during meditation, or is it the kind of thing where you put in your earbuds and you have it going in the background while you're working and it helps keeping you kind of more present and calm and helps you work more effectively as well?
It's a great question. So we've designed our music to be listened in a passive environment. So you can have headphones on, but you can also, I mean, I personally listen to Sona, just with my iPhone. So you don't have to necessarily, have headphones or any special equipment. You can listen to it in a passive environment. So whether you're meditating actively and you want to have some music in the background, that's an option. If you're cooking, if you're studying, if you're just relaxing around the house, you can also have it playing in that more passive environment as well.
Yeah. And for me, the music, it just helps with focus and flow state. So, if I'm working and I have music going, I'm not really even paying attention to the music all that much. But it just helps me get into that state of focus, and then I can be more productive. And so it sounds like this could be used for that purpose, but it also, of course, is used just for the calming effects, and to help with stress and anxiety. So I think that's important too. And let's talk a little bit about how this might be utilized in the workplace. I think it's clear, in our personal lives and at home, I can, use this as part of my morning routine, my meditative routine. I can use this while I'm cooking or while I'm just trying to relax at the end of a hard day. What can we do? Like if I'm a boss and I notice that my team is stressed and anxious and feeling burned out. And perhaps I know of a particular member of my team that's struggling with mental health challenges. What could I do, and how could I utilize this with my team or with individuals on my team to help them? Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Academy. Courses, micro-credentials, and certificates to upskill and reskill for the future of work. All HCI Academy courses, micro-credentials, and certificates are designed, developed, and delivered by award-winning and internationally renowned scholars, educators, thought leaders, executives, and practitioners. Our courses, micro-credentials, and certificates will help you make your mark on the future of work and make an immediate impact in your organizations. Check out the HCI Academy and our many course offerings and certificates to upskill and reskill for the future of work. Check out our new weekly LinkedIn newsletter, Alchemizing Human Capital, exploring industry trends via original research and interviews with executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We look forward to having you join us.
%83 of the US workforce suffers from work-related stress. So I agree with you that it's a big problem. And I think there's a variety of use cases. There's employee health and benefits programs. We work with employers to offer extended free trials of Sona to companies and their employees. And I also think that in terms of just awareness around music therapy and the restorative music that we created Sona as an option to reduce stress, and instead of taking therapy or traditional mindfulness techniques, kind of education around music therapy as an alternative, I think is really important. As a company, we focus a lot on educating people about that this is actually a valid method of stress reduction. And maybe there's also opportunities for employers to create spaces, right, where this music can be playing. Not necessarily a Sona sound bathroom, but just a dedicated space where people can tune out and kind of restore. But those are just some ideas off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that's great. And we hear about things like nap pods and you like you said, sound bath rooms or various places like that. Organizations are doing all sorts of unique and creative things to try to give their people an opportunity to get restored, re-energized, and to be able to move on with their day and be productive. And I think this is just one more component that we can add to the menu of options for our people. And I love the idea, that I can have this in a physical place. We can have a room set aside in the workplace where we can do these sorts of things and have this music and help people feel more calm. But it's also something, that I really just can have on my phone that I can keep with me and pop in, when I have a spare 10, 15 minutes, and go through that practice of mindfulness and being present in the moment, and just practice my breathing and being calm with the music helping to facilitate all of that. I think that's tremendous. Right. And like you said, you have producers, top people who are writing and composing this music. What we all want is to be more mentally healthy in the workplace and in our personal lives. We all want to figure out how we can better balance the challenges in our life. And the reality is we all face a whole array of different issues. And if we're going to, as we move into the future of work, if we're going to continue as individuals, but within our teams and within our organizations, if we're going to continue to be innovative and add value to the marketplace, we have to find new ways that will help us deal with the challenges of the times, that will help us to get into our flow state, to reconnect, to find our calm, and be able to navigate the challenges. So I'm curious if there's any other thoughts around the science of your music, or perhaps even the composers, those who are involved with the writing of the music. Um, what goes into that process with music therapy in mind? So with the end goal of helping to relieve anxiety symptoms and such, what does that do for how you select composers or how you think about the neuroscience?
Yeah, in terms of selecting the composers, we use very traditional kind of artist development techniques to select them, and we really look for authenticity, right? So, like you said, having premium quality music, you don't want to hear something that sounds like stock music. So we look for composers that we believe are extremely talented. In the same way we would sign a pop or a hip hop artist, we look for that same level of authenticity, but composers in this restorative music space. And I think that's kind of a prerequisite. And then we essentially, once we sign them to a non-exclusive deal for a certain number of compositions, we then get on a call and explain our music composition process to them and kind of work through it. And then once they kind of understand these pillars and fundamentals of making this type of restorative music, they then go and paint. And, sometimes it takes a few weeks, a few days, and they come back with some demos and ideas. And then I really work with them to kind of refine it. And, sometimes it's perfect from the get-go. And other times, we might want to refine the compositions a little bit. And then once we get the compositions ready, that's when we ship the files to Warren Riker, who's our in-house mixing engineer, head of sound design, and he's basically polishing the gems, so to speak, to make them sound as good as they can. And then we master it with two-time Grammy-winning engineer Rick Hilaire, who then basically masters the compositions, but with spatial audio processing kind of embedded in the actual master. So that's our production process, in a nutshell. And hopefully people can hear the difference.
That's wonderful. Thank you for walking us through that process. And I would encourage, anyone listening and you're thinking, how could we utilize this? I think hopefully it's clear how it could be utilized in your personal life. Now, just recognize if we're trying to foster a more dynamic and healthy workplace environment, psychologically healthy, mentally healthy workplace environment, we need to recognize that every single member of our team brings stuff with them from home. Like our lives bleed together. We can't just neatly compartmentalize, this is home, this is work. And our people bring with them their authentic selves to the workplace. And that includes the baggage and the challenges and the struggles that they're dealing with. And so if we're going to be supportive and create a psychologically safe organizational climate, we also need to help model for them how to deal with mental health challenges, how to, strategies to cope and to overcome. And this is just one of many tools. Sometimes people need to go to therapy, talk therapy. Sometimes people need medication. Sometimes people just need to feel appreciated and supported in the workplace. Sometimes people need help in learning how to use more mindfulness practices. And your app and music therapy is just one more tool that we can use to proactively help our people when we see the challenges and the struggles that people are facing, when we notice that perhaps there's heightened levels of anxiety, or if we just recognize that the next couple of weeks are going to really be tough. we have a big deadline coming up, or we have some new contract or whatever, and we can proactively just recognize those things and encourage our people and model through our own behavior how to utilize tools like this so that people can proactively stay on top of their mental health issues and make sure that they're staying mentally healthy. So I think this is tremendous. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and explain this for us. And I would encourage listeners to check it out. I know at the time I'm going to have to let you go here in a few minutes, but before we wrap up, can you share with us how people can get connected with you, find out more about your work, find more about the app, where they can find the app, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our website is www.sona.care. And there you can download the app either on iOS or Android. Our Instagram is @SonaCares. And if anybody wants to get connected with me directly, they can send me a message at nealsarin.com. That's NEALSARIN.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Neal. It has truly been a pleasure. I encourage listeners to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Neal can do for you. Check out the app and be creative. Think about creative ways that this could be utilized within your workplace and with your team. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership, the journey of becoming a truly remarkable leader. Early in my adult life, I learned about an Asian proverb that translates as bluer than indigo. If you think about the color indigo, it is a brilliant, deep, and vibrant blue, what some would call the bluest of blues. To have something that is bluer than indigo is rare and truly remarkable. Contrary to popular myth, there is no one-size-fits-all or cookie-cutter approach to effective leadership. There is no silver bullet, no secret sauce, no go-to model that will solve all of your problems. The truth is, great leaders have all had their unique strengths and flaws, and have all had to discover and then pave their own distinctive path in their life's journey to fulfill their leadership potential. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership will help you discover your own path and explore those ordinary, everyday actions that will help you respond to an uncertain future and produce extraordinary results for individuals, teams, and organizations. Check out Human Capital Innovations magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine with the mission to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We publish issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Take a look at the latest issue and let us know what you think. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership. Ordinary, everyday actions that produce extraordinary results. Consider how the nature of work has shifted over the past 50 years. With increased globalization, rapid technological advancement, and the shift in economic composition, the average job of today looks very different than the average job of 50 years ago. What will the jobs and organizations of tomorrow look like? Moreover, what does this all mean for organizational leaders? What are the core competencies and capabilities of organizations and their leadership that are prepared for continued disruption and geopolitical and socioeconomic shifts? Regardless of what the future holds, increasingly, leaders need to be socially minded, data-driven, decisive, champions of talent, and disruptors of the traditional notions of leadership, teams, organizations, and work. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership will help you to explore your own leadership competencies and capabilities and consider ways to apply and implement them into your workplace and personal life. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations podcast? Please subscribe, leave a review, comment, share, and consider supporting the podcast on Patreon, even at the producer and sponsorship levels. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.